4 patents. Yes, everyone, my guest today has 4 patents. He's started multiple companies, consulted with many others, has educated himself in many broad fields, and is focused on creating his own version of himself in a super intelligent form. If any of that piques your interest, and I'm pretty sure it will, what you'll also love to know is that underpinning all of it is a true desire to leverage human potential and connection. Stay tuned. This next episode of Humanize Automation with Manuj Aggarwal is about to hit. Thank you so much for tuning back in, maybe tuning in for the first time. My name is Dr. Jill Schiefelbein. I am the host here at Humanize Automation, and it's really interesting the way we intersect with people these days, right? I mean, it used to be, in the good old days that you had to meet people in person, or maybe like through a friend of a friend, and then you'd send snail mail, and then eventually it was email. But now you can have conversations with brilliant people all over the world through so many different channels. And our guest today is someone who I actually met interacting on LinkedIn, who, when he came in and commented on some of the podcast episodes, we found we had some people in common. We see AI and technology in similar ways, but we're doing things about it slightly differently. So I thought it would be an amazing opportunity to have him on the show. So Manuj Aggarwal, welcome to Humanize Automation. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
One of the things that you and I both agree on, and if you look through our profiles, like some of the copies almost identical in that, it's very clear that we believe AI does not replace humanity. It actually makes humanity better when it's used well. And you have an amazing background in really building up companies, getting patents in the AI space. Could you just take us on like a 30,000 foot quick journey of what your career is and how you're here today?
Yeah, well, career started in India. I was, I started working with computers around like 16 or 17, and I fell in love with them. Came over to Canada in 1998, and that was the dot-com boom time, and it was easy, easy career move. But also dot-com bust happened around 2000, so I lost 4 jobs in 2 years, and that pushed me into entrepreneurship. Started my own company, started working with a lot of startups, and that's where my kind of love for understanding different businesses started, because once you work with different businesses, you see so many overlaps. People have similar problems, but they find different solutions. So started working with a lot of startups, helping build their products. Then also helped Microsoft, T-Mobile, like larger corporations to really utilize technology to serve their clients. So I saw a spectrum of, how a small, scrappy startups works and a large, giant, multi-billion dollar corporation works. And the contrast was quite amazing. But it also sort of informed me how the world is interconnected, how everything is working. And then around 2005 is when I got into AI. So we created one of the first personalized learning products, personalized learning platforms, which basically help students to learn in a personalized manner. Like right now, even today, if there's a classroom of about 50 people, everybody is given the same curriculum. But we know that some students are further ahead, some need more help. So with this platform, we personalize the curriculum itself for each student. So that's when I started to see the power of AI when combined with individuals. And so we are now entering an age of hyper personalization where, everything that we desire or we consume will be personalized to us as a human being, rather than, at the industrial revolution scale, there's only, you can buy 12 sizes or 4 colors. That's the choice you have. But now moving forward with the help of AI and automation, I can dream up anything and I say, hey, I want this to be really personalized for me. This is how I prefer it. So that's where we are going. And that was a little bit of my journey. But right now I work with understanding how human mind interacts with AI and vice versa. And that's a very exciting field. And we have done some amazing work in that field as well. And I think that's where kind of like big impact will be made. And obviously big companies will be created in that domain, because that's a very new area that we are venturing into now.
It's really interesting you talk about that because I go back to the very, very early 2000s, right? So our timeline's kind of parallel in some ways. So I built my first online course at a university in 2003 and was very quick to be like, listen, just because someone needs to take an online course because of a geographic issue, or maybe they're a caretaker or a single parent, whatever it may be, doesn't mean their experience should be subpar in any way. So it became my passion to make sure that these students were getting just as engaging of an experience. It would not be the same, right? There's in-person, online. It's not the same, but it can be equally engaging and equally useful. And the whole field of HCI, human computer interaction, I started looking into a lot back then because it fascinated me. Like, okay, well, how do humans interact differently? And we all remember the early days of the internet with the whole anonymity thing, right? And how people would completely change, and people still do. Like your friend will post something on social media that they would never say straight to your face in a real human interaction. So we still have this. And one of the things that I found so fascinating, Manuj, was we had to learn how to communicate with search engines initially. And then for me, it was how do we communicate? Like I was trying to get my videos to, go viral and all this stuff on YouTube and, had some success, but I had to figure out how to communicate with the algorithm. Now we're talking about AEO, artificial, engine optimization, and how humans are interacting with the technology and how our behavior changes through all of these is fascinating. So I would love to hear kind of is it neuroscience from the perspective you're taking it, or something else?
Yeah, absolutely. Neuroscience, psychology, all of it. At the end of the day, my thesis is this: at the most basic level, humans basically just want communion. We want to connect with each other. And it used to be through letters, and then email came through, and then we are doing live video and whatnot. So the better we can communicate with each other, the better we can connect with each other. Any technology that facilitates that is going to become very popular. Now when we connect with each other, as you were saying, we want to kind of play with the algorithms or what have you. But what I found was like if you break it down into two simple steps. Okay, one is asking better questions. So if you think about Google, all it is it indexes the whole internet, and then people are asking questions, and somebody who answered that question on the other end, Google is just a connector between the two. Yeah. And the way that Google optimizes pages, which is I'm going to the second part, telling better stories. So whoever tells the better story gets higher ranking in Google, because that's how humans work. Because storytelling is part of our evolution, and that's how knowledge used to be transferred generation over generation. So if you start to break it down, put aside all the complexity of the algorithms and the platforms and everything. My thesis is if you master these two skills, asking better questions, telling better stories, and just go from that perspective, everything else starts to fall in place automatically.
Yeah, I 100% agree, because before there were communication technologies, before we were chiseling things in rocks, it was all oratory, right? How we would communicate. And then what I find fascinating is when we look at technologies over time that have helped us communicate in different ways. Better or worse is up for debate, but in different ways, they've all been met with fear and reverence, with terror and awe. I always joke that poor Gutenberg in the printing press, man, that guy got an unfair shake. People were furious at that. And then some people were amazed. But at the end of the day, all of these devices have allowed us to be more human with each other and share things with other humans. And some people, I'm sure you talk to people, I'd love to know your experience. They're like, well, AI is taking the humanity out of everything. And I'm like, not if you're using it the right way, bud.
It's fascinating when I talk to people. In some ways, we are addicted to complexity. Okay, meaning when we say to people that, hey, this will help ease your stress levels, it'll help you get rid of the mundane that you don't like anyways, they hold it so dear that it makes them lose control. It almost give them a feeling of losing control, that life is supposed to be complex. If it's not complex, it's not valuable. And you are telling me that this technology is going to simplify my life. That means I'm going to lose my value. That is what is going on in the heads of people, because we are addicted to complexity. So think about it this way. When humans became agricultural societies, going from hunter gatherers, the life of an average human as a hunter gatherer was maybe 18 to 20 hours a day running around after animals to make sure that they have food to eat. And then some at one point somebody came and said, you know what, maybe just sow some seeds in the land and chill for about 6 months and you'll have food. And they're like, how is this possible? Like, no, this is not possible. This is too simple. I'm going to keep running around after animals because that seems more complex and that seems more valuable to me because I'm putting in the hard work. So every time a technology comes, at the end of the day, technology is all about bringing convenience and enhancing our abilities. And whenever a disruptive technology comes, we as humans, we say, no, I think this will reduce my value because I will not need to put in as much effort into doing whatever I'm doing. But once you cross over that threshold, then you understand that, oh, this technology will enable me to increase my value plus give me my time back so that I can exponentially increase my value further. So, if you're putting in 40 hours a week and making $100,000, what will you do if you get 80% of your time back? Mm-hmm. Right?
It's the right question.
But if you don't want to use that time to earn more, you can learn the music lessons that you've been putting off. You can go spend time with your family that you think you don't have time to do that right now because you're too busy, or whatever. I mean, whatever your jam is, you can get your life back. The other day I just made a post. I have a client who's a very successful entrepreneur, and he just all the time, like, just chasing clients, chasing everything. And I sat down with him. We created his digital twin. Some practice that I follow, which is to create a digital twin in AI for a human being, so that it becomes a super intelligent version of you, and have it guide us in terms of our life. So in 3 months, he has now traveled 5,000 kilometers, visiting different parts of Canada. Like, he fell in love with nature, and now he's thinking about getting a boating license and whatnot. In 3 months, his life transformed, and he found what he was looking for. Not that he's actually making more money now and spending time loving what he's doing. And this was possible because of AI.
I love that story. One of the analogies I use with clients sometimes is like, listen, when you were first growing your business, it took you probably longer than it needed to. I know it did me, to hire your first assistant, because it's terrifying to hire your first employee, because now all of a sudden you're not as agile. You're responsible for another salary and this person's livelihood, right? There's a lot of pressure in that. But then when you do it, you're like, man, why didn't I do this like years ago? This is crazy. It's the same thing now. And I'm not calling AI your employee. I'm saying it is another tool to help you scale and grow your business. And I love what you said about kind of creating your own super intelligent version of yourself. You called it the digital twin. I have mine. It's like my battle buddy, right? I'm like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. How am I being short-sighted today? And it's like, tell me more.
The thing is that, our logical mind is so full of the noise that comes at us from so many angles. Obviously external stimulus like ads and social media and all of that, that's one thing. But even people around us, our friends and family, they don't really, they're not always in our shoes. Whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are a career professional, whatever you are dealing with, we are not able to express ourselves so clearly to them. And when they give us unsolicited advice, they are coming from their perspective, and so all this noise creates a lot of stress, indecision, anxiety about what is going to happen in the future. But imagine you have, as you said, your employee, which is, by the way, super intelligent, has multiple PhDs in multiple topics, and knows you intimately, and just at the end of the day, just get a second opinion. Hey, this is what I'm trying to decide, and this is where I'm going in life. What do you think? And that itself gives you so much clarity. It takes a load off your shoulder that, hey, okay, I'm now heading in the right direction. Finally, I have some confirmation from an unbiased source that understands me and understands the world around me.
One of my favorite books that has kind of informed how I think about human behavior, especially as it's related to like my original expertise area of communication and then communication and technology combined, Roy Baumeister, his book, Willpower. I don't know if you've read that one, but everyone listening, like, it is an amazing book because what Manuj is talking about is essentially like, as humans, we have our most limited resource, which is willpower. Like, this is the most precious resource that we have in a day. It's why every decision you make fatigues you more and more, because it takes willpower to make a decision. It's why when you go home at night to your significant other, or, in my case, to my plants, it's like, what should we have for dinner tonight? And you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't care. It's because you have no more energy to make a decision. But now, whether you want to 5 or 10x your income, or you want to use that time to reconnect with nature, like, we have the options now, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah. And it's interesting that I actually was doing a demo the other day. I was in a group of entrepreneurs, and they had chicken or beef or veggie. And I actually, just for fun, I said, hey, what should I eat for lunch to this digital twin? And it broke it down because of this, you are at this time where, you should have a vegetarian meal, or like, so it was kind of, to your point, even those micro decisions, and actually scientifically, it's been proven that average human being takes about 35,000 decisions every day. So imagine if you could, offload maybe like even 50% of them, and get some clarity in your mind.
No, it's true. I love that 35,000 stat, because when you look at it, the majority of these are subconscious decisions, right? Like, what side of the bed am I getting out on today, right? But so your brain has created these routines and habits. Well, guys, you can create more routines and habits leveraging these technologies. So you're creating even more space for the real human conversations, to ask the better questions, to make more meaningful connections, which again, and to your point earlier, I love how you said the questions and the stories. That dichotomy is so strong.
And the thing is that this is where most of our value will be created as human beings, because the aspect that is logical, our logical mind, and the mechanical stuff that we do with our hands and limbs, very shortly, all of that will be the realm of the machines. So ChatGPT today has an IQ of 150. Einstein had an IQ of 170. And it's expected by the end of this year, 2025, ChatGPT is going to have an IQ of 1,500. So what is left is our ability to communicate with people, empathize, just like be that emotional aspect of the human being is what will be more valuable. So emotional intelligence, communication, empathy, these things will become much more valuable. And the idea is how to use AI itself to enhance those qualities. That is going to be the real gold implementation.
Well, and I think it's also, to me, one of the things that I find important is curiosity, right? Like, you have to, well, one, you have to genuinely care, right? I mean, that I'm just going to make that assumption that you listening care enough as a human being to try to better yourself and make better connections to others. You're not going to be wasting time listening to this podcast if that's not who you are.
Exactly.
So, keeping that assumption there, it's really, can you stay curious enough on your approach and evaluating yourself. And I am not advocating using your superintelligence or ChatGPT as a therapist, right? Because again, there's human context, human connection, human storytelling capabilities that those machines based on logic do not have. But it's when you're negotiating something out, when you have your pros and cons list, like ask it to look for gaps. Ask it, how could I approach this situation more empathetically? How could I be a better friend, neighbor, sister, parent, whatever it may be? And it's not, again, you necessarily having to follow all that advice. It's getting another perspective. And then you can take that perspective and then go have the conversation. So that conversation may have started here before, but now it can start at a higher plane. And that's where there's a lot of power.
This is a dangerous area for me to go into, but I will challenge this notion that it cannot be a therapist. And the reason why that is because I've studied, not deeply, but I understand how the medical system works. And what we have done, even in the case of understanding human psychology, is we have divided them into these buckets and said, if you show this type of symptom, that means you have this type of situation, like whatever name we assign it. And then we say, okay, this is how we fix it. And that is all a perspective of another third party who was not living the life of the patient. So in my opinion, having that first-hand knowledge of our right brain and the left brain and our life situation of past experiences, if we can really create an intelligent version of ourselves, that's, in my opinion, much better therapist, because the feedback that I get is very highly personalized to my situation, rather than sort of exploring it and saying, which bucket should I put this person in? Does that make sense?
Oh, it absolutely does. And I think one of the phrases you hit the nail on the head is our medical systems.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go through traditional medical systems, 100%, because you are tied by certain insurance carriers, by what tests you're allowed to run, by what medicines you're allowed to prescribe. And so when you have something that's so systemic in that way, yes, you can plot that out 100%. It's also why that I pay my therapist out of pocket, so I don't have to be subject to any of those rules, right? But I think what's interesting about it is what AI cannot do yet. And it does, like, you can read, like my dissertation, I did biometric measurements. I could measure 32 different facial expressions with micro expressions and measurements and all of that type of stuff. But it's the real human reaction time to that emotional intelligence of reading another human's nonverbal communication. And that's, and that's where also that I'm not disagreeing with your premise on it from the logic chain. Yeah, but it's also, can the computer tell if you're lying? Because there are tells that a good therapist, a good doctor, or whatever is like, I don't think you're giving me all the information.
Oh, absolutely. We are at the beginning stages of all this, right? Mm-hmm. So what I say is, let's start where it is good already right now, and let's not rock the boat and say, okay, even though I said it may be a better therapist, but it will take a while before that profession actually starts to utilize the power of this. But in the meantime, we can start to focus on self-awareness, which is just between me and whoever, whatever information I'm getting into my mind, that I can start to optimize and raise my level of self-awareness, right?
No, I really like that. And I think so many things, since we're on the medical field, I think there's so many ways that we can use AI and automation at the beginning stages. I mean, how great would it be? I mean, even for my therapist, I think if I could interact with a therapist bot, let's just say for 5 minutes pre-appointment. Now again, to me, it's leveling the conversations up. So before I would be starting here at ground level with my therapist every session. Now I'm starting at, level 20 out of 100, right? Because, the machine was able to help summarize the initial thing to get to where we needed to get to faster. I mean, we've all probably been in the sessions where it's like, oh, darn, our hour is up. And I'm like, dang it, I was really just getting somewhere. I'm like sobbing my eyes out. But we want to start at a higher level. And that's what these tools allow us to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I really love again, I want to call this back out because I think it was so well said earlier on, in case you guys missed it. This dichotomy, and it's not really a dichotomy, it's two things hand in hand of if humans can ask better questions and tell better stories, right? Whatever tools enable us to do that, if you're not using them, you didn't say this, Manuj, I'm saying it, you're kind of crazy. Like, you don't want to be your best. Okay, well, that's on you. But like, if you want to be your best, really reflecting and understanding on those things is important. When you are like earlier in your career, I want to rewind here. You have 4 patents in the AI space, which is really, really awesome. And I don't need us to go in like super technical detail, but I'd love for you to like outline a few of those because I want to see how those informed your perspective on that.
Yeah, sure. The very first one was the personalized learning system that I talked about earlier, which students can personalize the curriculum even though they are in the same classroom. So that was quite effective. Then the other patents are related to 3D printed orthotics. So orthotics are when, sometimes you need to fix the posture of your feet. Sometimes people experience joint pains or other ailments because of the way their feet are constructed. And orthotics that are available on the market generally are just, again, mass manufactured orthotics that you get it in like 10, 12 sizes, and you try to fix it, like use it to fix the problem that you have. But what we said was, okay, how can we customize the orthotics? Because on average humans, if most people don't realize, even our 2 feet, between the 2 feet, there are differences in dimensions and things of that nature. So even between our feet, they are not identical. Okay. So how can we create a custom version of orthotic that fits each foot perfectly? And so what we did was we created a patent technology that can scan your feet with a mobile phone, create a 3D model of your feet within 2 millimeters of accuracy. And then that 3D model gets 3D printed and then creates a custom orthotic that fits both left and right feet, like exactly within 2 millimeters accuracy. And then it was proven that this technology can help joint pains, increase performance for athletes, and many, many benefits. So 3 patents are on that. So we also started to work on planting chips and electronics on the orthotics so that we can start to get active feedback as you're walking, as you're running, and those type of things.
Well, I think it's great. And I wanted to hear because I was very curious on the origin story of that. But I think it's like to everyone listening, if you look at the thought process behind it, right, there's this unifying theme of how can we treat each person as an individual? And in the case of the orthotics, it's each person is an individual. And within that single individual, there are many different parts. We're not just one homogenous blob from person to person. And so it's being able to see from like an innovation standpoint, which I love your story. It's okay. Yes, we have these things. We know there are problems, but how can we personalize it so specifically that we can continue to collect valuable data too? And I think that's where a lot of people are getting it wrong. They're like setting up these systems, but failing to advance in their data collection so they can currently, refine and actually probably innovate more.
Yeah. And this is where, you are absolutely right. There's a lot of hype around AI, but people don't understand that data is what the wealth is, where the wealth is. Like if you have data, so I use this example, like if you go to ancient China, salt used to be as valuable as gold. So they used to exchange salt in this equal weight as gold. Okay. And then copper became valuable, and then iron became valuable, and oil became valuable. Now, today, data is the most valuable commodity. So think about it this way. Elon Musk paid $44 billion for Twitter. And the reason was not just he paid for the company, but the data is invaluable because it helps him understand what people are thinking. So if you look around, Google is about worth, I think, $2 trillion, and they don't sell a product. Think about it. All they have is a huge amount of data, right? So the more data you have, the more value you will have in the world. And now the trick again is AI is the engine to generate that data and understand that data and come up with the right insights that will be super valuable. So use AI as the engine. So just like a car was the engine and oil was needed to run the engine. Now this is a little bit reversed, that AI is the engine that produces the new gold, the new currency, or the new oil, which is data.
I say often in many of my keynotes the phrase that, especially in speaking of smaller businesses, data is the, I almost messed up my word there. Data is the great equalizer, because it's what will allow smaller businesses to serve their clients at scale in more personalized ways with very low budgets. And so now on a service level, they are able to compete with massive companies if you have done your diligence in collecting your consumer data in an ethical and honest and transparent way, mind you. I am a big believer in that. But when you have that and data, you guys have heard me say it on here, but I want to say it again in case you're tuning in for the first time. Context data is not just numbers. It's not a binary 1 or a 0. Data is knowing someone's preferences, their hyper personalizations that, of course, then a computer translates into ones and zeros. But this is, what we're talking about here. It's the real human experiences that are collected through asking the right questions, telling and listening to stories, and creating these experiences that, Manuj, you've spent a career doing for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the pivotal moment where communities, nations, individuals will change the trajectory of their lives and next future generations' lives. Because as you said, like, collecting data is the power, and people are literally unaware of the value of the data. Like, they are giving this data to Facebook, they are giving this data to Twitter, they are giving this data to Google absolutely free. Okay, so imagine you had a bunch of gold in your locker, and you say, "Hey, I'm just putting it out there. You take it, take whatever you want," uh, and one day they'll realize, "Oh my goodness, I just gave it all away, and other people were giving it away, and I didn't grab more of it."
And again, it comes back to the people innovating with it. It's not only having the data, but it's, can you be innovative enough to offer something? Because most people will give up their data in exchange for a benefit, right? People see a benefit in using social media enough to give up the data, that Google helps them enough be productive that they will give up data. And it's going to continue to be the same thing. It's why you have shopper loyalty programs and all of those other things. We feel like we get enough of an incentive to it. So it's like, yes, here you can know every single grocery I've ever purchased my entire life shopping at this chain.
Yeah.
Great.
Exactly.
But you know what? If you are willing to hand deliver me coupons that make me happy and impact my bottom line, you know what? Have that data.
I mean, this conversation itself is data.
Yes.
Right? So we are collecting data. We are mutually co-creating data right now.
Absolutely. Every one of these, it goes into my model that's like, hey, how are you doing this with the podcast? How are you building your brain? How are you flexing that muscle?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Manuj, we could talk for hours about so many of these intersections, but alas, we are running short on time already. But I want to give you a chance, like, what is wrap up thought, final thought, or something that we haven't talked about yet? Because, time is limited. What would you like to share?
Well, I will just say, like, if somebody wants to really make progress in their life, unlock what is inside them, come talk to me, because we are working on some cutting edge solutions. And these are peer reviewed scientific methods to really unlock the potential of every human being. And whether you are running a company, whether you are a solopreneur, whether you are a career professional, whether you are a team of 5, 6, 7 people, once you truly understand how to utilize AI, you can really unlock massive, massive value and lower your risk in terms of how to accomplish your goals and reduce the time that is needed to accomplish your goals. So if some of these things resonate with you, I know sometimes the way that I explain things can be cryptic, but if anything that I said resonates, then come talk to me, because I think I'm really eager to share it with more people, because it has such a huge impact on people.
No, I love it. Well, Manuj, thank you so much for spending time with me and with everyone tuning in today here on Humanize Automation. Everyone that listened in, I hope you really picked up on really the whole backbone of this show. And what Manuj and I agree on so much is This is here to leverage human potential, not to squash it, not to replace it, but to actually amplify what's going on and what we can do. So I hope you took that away along with many other things today. And as is the host prerogative, please, do the things. Go like and subscribe and share and comment and check out all the show links. Go check out Manuj and all of his stuff. And of course, please let me know, what do you want to hear more about on this show? And don't forget, another episode will be dropping next week, so stay tuned. Thank you again so much for tuning in to Humanize Automation.